Joining me now from Sydney, the Environment Editor at the Australian newspaper, Lloyd. Graham, I'll get to your brilliant column today in The Australian, but I was waiting for journalists at that climate love fest today between New Zealand and Australian Prime Ministers for someone to say, well, hang on, Jacinda, if you really care about lowering emissions, why have you carved out the biggest source of your emissions, namely agriculture? I mean, how fair income are you? But no one asked you the question.
Well, no one asked the question because no one really pays attention. But New Zealand hasn't met any of the targets it's set. And as you say, it's carved out agriculture, its biggest sector, from its targets that it has now. So Australia has outperformed New Zealand by a large extent in everything to do in this field. So it's quite ridiculous, really, being sort of put aside them at meetings like this.
As I said, terrific column from you today, always factually based, which I love. I love to see the stats and the data in there. You say renewables just don't cut it, and that we're not thinking like, you know, practical people. We're not looking at the physics. We're not looking at engineering capability. We're just seeing this as an irrational, emotional debate. How have we got it so wrong?
Well, I think we've started from the wrong position. We've said, look, we must cut emissions, we must do anything. What have we got? Let's sort of hurry down that path without really sitting back and saying, if you wanted to replace a power system in the best possible way, how would you do it? So there's a lot of engineers that are sitting back sort of saying, well, I told you so right now, as the power sector sort of disintegrates before our eyes.
It doesn't need to, though, does it?
Well, there's always sort of, you start from the position you need to make sure that there's electricity available whenever it's required, and we've been doing that for a long period of time using coal and gas. Now, we've forced a lot of renewables into the system, and we've assumed that they're just going to be like for like, and the experience everywhere in the world is they're not like for like, and you basically need a total replacement for what they can produce for when they're not there. Really, we're now facing the situation where the coal sector is falling apart because of neglect. The gas sector can't pick it up because the physical pipelines to move the gas around are not sufficient to cover what's missing from coal. And so we're really at crunch time.
Well, we're in the problem with coal, not because there was anything inherently wrong with coal production, but we've let those coal-fired power stations become aged. We've not done the repair work required. We know a lot of the companies that own them are trying to send them out the back door. Those that do want to expand coal production in the past haven't been able to get finance from the banks because the shareholder activists have put pressure on the banks. So we've drummed out coal. And on the other hand, you make the right point about gas. You've got to move gas around. It's not like coal on the back of a truck or a road train. It's a very different resource to move to where you need it. But we're demonising gas now, Graham. We've got all this gas in the ground. We're not allowed to explore for it. What we have, we're sending overseas. I mean, it's laughable that everybody's burning our resources overseas, powering their economies, and we're in the trouble we're in tonight.
That's right, and fundamentally people have to understand that there are large gas reserves in New South Wales and large gas reserves in Victoria, and for political reasons they haven't been utilised. So the gas that is being used to come from Bass Strait, that's running out. It's now coming from Queensland, and transporting the gas from Queensland to Victoria, that's the problem.
You called out today some of the myths overseas about their power transitions, in particular Germany. Tell my viewers more.
Well, Germany's always been held up as the poster child for the renewables transition, and I think a lot of people think that they have been very successful in swapping over to wind and solar and closing down their nuclear industry. But really, they've replaced their nuclear industry with brown coal mines and gas from Russia. And as we can see, that's really the sort of the cause of all the problems in the global gas price at the moment is the scramble in Europe to replace gas that used to come from Russia, and that's pushed the price way up and wrecked everybody's economies.
Just before we go, do you think we're going to be able to have a rational, fact-based debate in Australia about nuclear?
I think that's coming. It's inevitable, and we probably have to suffer a little bit of pain before we face up to having to make that decision.
Oh, fingers crossed, not about the pain, but about the rational conversation. Graham Lloyd, thank you for your time. Brilliant piece today. There you go. If you get The Australian, make sure you read Graham Lloyd. If you don't get The Australian, get a subscription, because I'd buy the paper just for his analysis.